The wind howled through the dusty streets of Willow Creek, carrying with it the whispers of gossip that traveled faster than the tumbleweeds. In the center of the town, under the shade of a worn wooden porch, a crowd had gathered, eyes sharp with judgment. They had seen her enter the saloon earlier, her long skirts slightly torn from travel, her face pale but determined. The murmurs grew louder as they noticed the subtle roundness of her belly, the hint of life she carried within. "She's with child," a harsh voice sneered from the back, and the words spread like fire through dry grass. Some shook their heads in disapproval. Others smirked as though they found entertainment in her supposed shame. She could feel their eyes, sharp and intrusive, weighing her down. Every step she took was met with judgment. Every breath a reminder that in this town, people had little mercy for a woman traveling alone. But she held her head high, trying to ignore the pointed stares and whispered mockery. Her hands rested protectively over her stomach, instinctively shielding the life that grew within her, as if her touch alone could make the world forget its cruelty. The town's children, less cruel than the adults, but just as curious, peered out from behind barrels and doors, their innocent eyes wide with wonder and a hint of fear. She wondered if the whispers of her arrival had reached the mayor's ears, or if the saloon keeper would allow her a corner for the night. Every detail mattered, every movement was a story, and she knew that here, in a place so unforgiving, even a simple action could spark scandal. She had come to Willow Creek for reasons she would not speak of yet. Her past a tapestry of hardship and fleeting moments of hope, stitched together by courage she was not sure she still possessed. She thought of the long journey through the prairie, the relentless sun that had scorched her back, the nights when the cold had gnawed at her bones, and yet she had survived. The journey had been more than physical. It had been a test of spirit, and she had crossed it with determination, born from love and necessity. The crowd's murmurs grew into full sentences of mockery. "She's going to bring shame upon herself and whoever's involved." Another voice added, "A single mother? In this town? Impossible." Her heart ached with the weight of their assumptions, the cruelty that seemed so ordinary here. And yet she did not retreat. She did not bow to their judgment, even though fear twisted her stomach and loneliness wrapped around her like a shroud. She had always believed that courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to move forward despite it. The saloon doors creaked open, and a figure emerged from the shadows, tall and broad-shouldered, dust clinging to his boots and coat. The crowd fell silent, sensing his presence before they could even see his face clearly. He walked with a steady, commanding gait, eyes scanning the crowd with a calm intensity that made whispers falter. He was a cowboy, known throughout the region not just for his skill with a horse or a rifle, but for his sense of justice, for the silent code he carried wherever he went. He stopped beside her, and without a word, he took her hand in his, strong and protective, yet gentle. "If she's expecting," he said, his voice firm, "it's my child." The words cut through the murmurs like a sharp wind, silencing the town with their weight. Eyes widened, jaws slackened, and a few mouths opened in disbelief. They hadn't expected someone to step forward, let alone declare himself in defense of her and the unborn child. A stunned hush fell over Willow Creek. Some looked at him with newfound respect, while others with confusion, unable to reconcile the cowboy's audacity with their preconceived notions. He did not flinch under their scrutiny. Instead, he held her hand tighter, anchoring her in a sense of safety that she hadn't felt in months. The woman's heart raced, a mix of relief and surprise flooding her as she met his gaze. He was not just another passerby, another indifferent stranger. He had chosen to stand with her against the weight of the town's judgment. And in that moment, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time: hope. The town slowly began to murmur again, but this time with caution, as if the cowboy's words carried invisible authority. He did not speak more, did not need to. His presence was enough. For the first time since arriving, she felt seen, not as a subject of gossip, but as a woman, a mother-to-be, a human being deserving of protection and respect. They walked together side by side, out of the center of the town, leaving the whispers behind like dry leaves in the wind. With every step, her confidence grew, her fear diminishing. She realized that she no longer had to face judgment alone, that someone believed in her when so many had doubted. The journey ahead would still be fraught with challenges, but with him by her side, she felt an unspoken promise of safety, of strength, of courage. The night descended upon Willow Creek, and under the pale glow of the moon, she took a deep breath, letting the cool air wash over her. She no longer felt the weight of ridicule. She felt the promise of companionship, of unwavering support. Somewhere deep inside, a seed of joy took root, fragile but persistent, and she knew that with this cowboy beside her, she could face whatever trials awaited. The townsfolk, still watching from their windows and doorways, could only whisper among themselves, their judgment diminished by the undeniable truth that this child and the woman carrying it was no longer alone. The cowboy's hand in hers was more than protection. It was a declaration that in a world full of harsh voices and cruel eyes, there were still those who would stand for love, for justice, for life itself. And as they walked toward the edge of town, she dared to believe that perhaps this new chapter, unexpected and extraordinary, would lead them to a life neither had dared to dream of before. The next morning, the prairie stretched endlessly before them, golden under the rising sun. The air smelled of wildflowers and fresh earth, a stark contrast to the oppressive whispers of Willow Creek. She rode beside him, her hand still entwined with his, feeling the rhythm of his horse beneath them, steady and reassuring. They had left the judgmental town behind, seeking a place where life could be simple, where the world's cruelty would not shadow the small miracle growing inside her. Along the trail he spoke little, but every glance, every nod, carried meaning, reassurance and promise. She told him stories of her past, tales of hardship, fleeting joys, and the small acts of kindness that had kept her spirit alive. He listened, absorbing every word, never interrupting, never offering judgment. When she spoke of fear, he offered silent strength. When she spoke of dreams, he smiled, encouraging them without words. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of the world lift slightly from her shoulders. They camped by a river that sparkled in the morning light, setting up a modest fire as he prepared breakfast while she rested. The sound of the water rushing over rocks, the smell of the morning dew, and the warmth of his presence created a cocoon of safety around her. She realized that this cowboy, who had so boldly declared his claim the day before, had not only protected her, but had brought into her life a peace she had long thought impossible. They spoke of the future, not in grandiose plans, but in simple hopes: a small cabin, a garden, laughter filling the space, and the gentle arrival of the child they would raise together. He spoke of teaching the child to ride, to respect the land, and to hold courage close to their heart. She laughed, the sound light and free, feeling the heaviness of the past slip away. Days passed in this rhythm of companionship and quiet adventure. Each night beneath the stars, they shared stories of what they had lost and what they had yet to gain. And as the nights grew colder, he ensured she was always warm, always safe, a steadfast presence in the unpredictable wilderness. She began to dream vividly, imagining the future with a clarity she had never known. She pictured the child's first steps, the first words, the small joys of family life. The cowboy encouraged her dreams, making them feel tangible, possible, real. With him, she discovered strength she hadn't known existed within herself. His unwavering support made her believe that no matter the trials that awaited, they could face them together. Word of their departure from Willow Creek eventually reached neighboring towns, but the whispers of scandal were replaced by stories of courage, of a cowboy who would stand for what was right, of a woman who refused to be shamed. The prairie became their sanctuary. Each sunrise a reminder of freedom, each sunset a promise of continuity and love. One evening, as they sat by the fire watching the stars emerge, he turned to her, his eyes reflecting the flames. "No matter what happens," he said softly, we face it together. The world may sneer, but here we make our own rules. Here we choose love over fear. Tears filled her eyes, not of sorrow, but of overwhelming gratitude and hope. She realized that life, with all its hardships, had led her to this extraordinary moment of connection, of unconditional support and of belonging. The months passed, and with every passing day, the bond between them deepened. The child grew within her, a symbol of resilience and love, a living testament to courage in the face of judgment. The cowboy's presence became her anchor, his strength her shelter, his love the light that guided her through every shadow of doubt. Eventually, they built a small cabin near a grove of trees, a home that radiated warmth and security. She watched the horizon every morning, grateful for the journey that had brought her here, for the man who had refused to let the town dictate her worth, for the future that now shimmered with possibility. When the child was finally born, healthy and strong, the cowboy held her hand as she marveled at the tiny life they had created together. In that moment, all the sneers, the whispers, and the cruelty of Willow Creek felt distant and meaningless. What mattered was here, in the warmth of their cabin, in the heartbeat of the child, in the unwavering courage that had led them to this point. And as the sun set over the prairie, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a family, bound not by circumstance, but by choice, by love, and by the fierce protection of the cowboy who had declared, without hesitation, that if she was expecting, it was his child. The story of that day in Willow Creek, once a tale of scorn, became a legend of courage, love, and redemption, inspiring all who heard it to believe that even in a world full of judgment, true love and unwavering support could triumph. And as the camera pans to their cabin on the prairie, the soft glow of the setting sun reflecting on the peaceful faces of mother, father, and child, the narrator's voice urges viewers, if you believe in courage, in love, and in standing up for what's right, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more stories that warm your heart and ignite your spirit.